If there's one thing I really love, it's cars that tell interesting stories and seeing why people buy what they buy. And that's why on this episode, I'm going to meet the bloke that seems to amass a really fascinating little collection of cars, but doesn't really have a garage. Not really. And not only that, that car there, the Alfa Sud, celebrates 50 years this year. And this bloke here, Harry, has a really strong relationship with that car. That's what started this obsession, if you will. And this is the man. My name's Jonny Smith. Welcome to the Late Break Show. So Harry, what's fascinated me with your interest in cars is, this was the first car of yours that I saw. You brought this car to the Late Break Show on tour event in Leicester, and it got a huge amount of interest because it was like, wow, this is an Alfa Sud that isn't rotten, and it's beautiful. But I know this model of car kind of kicked off your interest in cars, didn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
My dad had 5, I think, when I was a kid throughout the years, so the first car of his I remember was an Alfa Sud.
You said you got taken home from hospital when you were born.
Yeah.
In one of these?
Yeah, I always thought he bought his first one because my mum was expecting me, but I later found out he'd got it a little bit earlier than that, so whether that was because they were planning a family and had moved into a family home, but yeah.
And you needed
I think he had his first one in 79 and I was born in 80, so yeah.
It is a practical Alfa.
Yeah, they're quite spacious inside, to be honest.
There's very few of them about, isn't there?
Yeah, around 100 still road registered.
Is that all?
Yeah, most of them are the later Cloverleaf and the TIs, the 3 doors, so a 4-door ones are fairly rare. I think there's 6 or 7 Supers.
Is that
still
all?
on the road.
Wow,
yeah.
I didn't know they were that rare.
Yeah, so yeah.
How did you acquire this one? Because this is not your dad's car, is it? This is not one
no. I was just browsing eBay one day, as you do, and it sort of popped up, and hadn't bought a car for a little while.
And yet, of course, you haven't got that many cars.
No. It was just, I don't know, it just seemed the right car at the right time. It was a 4-door, and it's got the 1500 engine, which is the best, sort of the biggest engine they put in the Suds. So
yeah,
it's a nice colour. It was a chrome. I wanted an early metal bumper car because I just think
they do look good.
The purest, sort of more original design.
And you've got some awesome pictures from the archive of you as a boy with various family Suds
on family holidays in front of the Alfas. Yeah.
So you've been around in one of these over the years. All over the place.
I think we went to Wales and went to Scotland in it, and in various Suds, and a couple of holidays in Yorkshire and things here.
So this kicked off your thing, your car thing?
Yeah, I think so. So they always sounded different to everything else on the road. They sort of had a little pop and a crackle on the overrun. Everyone else's dad had Ford Escorts and Astras and things, so an Alfa Romeo was a bit unusual at school.
Can I have a look at the engine bay?
Yeah.
Have a quick look at it.
It's
been a long time since I've seen.
Yeah, a little flap under the dash your side.
So if you're a bit of a Alfa Sud newbie, the thing that made these interesting was they're a flat 4 engine, water cooled, so like the forefather of the Subaru Impreza in many ways, but 2-wheel drive, front wheel drive. I've just remembered, because I'd forgotten, that the gearbox is at the back with the inboard discs and calipers really close either side of the engine, like a 2CV or something like that. It's a really cool look, and it's such a compact thing.
It's really short.
What are they like to live with?
It's been totally reliable.
Has it?
100%, yeah. I've done a few little bits and pieces. I've sort of put electronic ignition inside the distributor and a new coil.
Yeah.
I've changed the fuse box to a blade type fuse box, just to Italian electronics aren't
good idea.
aren't renowned, but
good idea.
Yeah, basically it's start when I started and drive it around.
And who owned this thing before you?
It's a chap down in Cornwall. I think he was a retired doctor, and he'd sort of recommissioned it. He'd bought it as a part restoration, recommissioned it for road use, and sort of had it repainted and did quite a lot with it. He used it sort of similar as I do, just to potter around.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I actually saw in the back window the sticker, the Z-Bart sticker.
Yeah. It's got all the yellow plugs around the door openings and stuff.
Which I'm thinking is the reason why it's still alive today.
Yeah,
it
probably
must be,
is.
mustn't it?
Yeah. There's still see bits of it.
Oh yeah,
down the inner wings and stuff. So,
yeah. I mean, it's survived miraculously well. Can I have a look inside?
Yeah.
First things first, let's get the important things out of the way, Harry. It's got a faux orange air freshener.
Yeah, genuine new old stock.
Which I love. And the tapes, bit of Def Leppard, bit of Dire Straits, oh brilliant. Queen, that's so good.
Yeah.
And you forget with older cars sometimes how shallow and slight the dashboards are. And one thing that Alfa Romeo is bloody good at, regardless of what you think about them as a complete package, the steering wheels are always really handsome. I love that steering wheel. Okay, so I know I said in the intro that Harry doesn't really have a garage. Well, you probably saw, he does have a garage. It's got one vehicle in it which looks like it hasn't done much in a long time or been anywhere in a long time. What's the story with this?
We used to go around to Volkswagen shows and have a look at the vans, and at the time you could buy a running MOT'd but tatty one for £3 or £4. So
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of sort of playing with other people's work. I'd rather start from scratch and do it myself. So we saw a project on eBay and
had a little buy here now.
Yeah.
So it's an earlier bay window. I can tell it's got the lower indicators.
Yeah, it's a 72 crossover, so it's got the early front end and the later rear end with the bigger lights and the bigger air intakes.
Yeah, okay. Right-hand drive, British
right-hand drive, 72 Dormobile conversion, so it came with all the interior, which we've got stored away. So there is all the bits to put it together. It just needs a lot of welding and painting.
But let me guess, you get distracted and you buy other things, Harry.
You come round to it one day.
Talk to me about wheels, because I know there's a stack here.
Yeah, a little bit of a hoarder. If I see a bargain, I have a buy and think, I'll use them at some point. So
So what wheels have you got?
Mainly BMW wheels, BBS split rims, M5, E34 M5 wheels, the throwing stars and the turbines.
You got some turbines?
Yeah, a couple of sets of turbines.
Oh my God, how many wheels have you got?
I don't know.
Really?
Probably 20 odd sets somewhere.
Oh, you got the disease.
Yeah, there's normally, most cars I've got a couple of sets of wheels for. So.
I love old number plates of cars, which I'm guessing have come and gone over the years. What's the story with these?
They were rescued from my granddad's barn. They're mostly, I think a couple of them are from his tractors. I think that was from an old John Deere.
Nice.
And so, great Yarmouth and Lowestoft Motor Club badges.
I saw that.
He used to go on the rallies and stuff in his Sunbeam Alpines.
So you grew up seeing him being into cars too?
Yeah, well, by the time we came along, he had a load of Mercedes, really.
Did he?
Every car he's owned since I knew. I've been alive was a Mercedes.
Brilliant. We've got to talk about the M3. Right. E30 M3.
Yeah.
This is not very often you see one living outside.
No, in the wild.
And B, it's not immaculate.
No.
What's the story with it? Because Harry did say to me, this is one of the reasons why I had to come and film this, is he said, I used to be my daily driver for quite a while. So what's the story with this one?
I had a Lancia Delta Integrale for a little while. That was also a daily driver back when they were cheap and affordable.
A daily driver?
Yeah. And I'd had that a few years. You sort of think, what shall I upgrade to? So I was going to buy an Integrale Evo.
Okay.
And then someone I knew locally was selling an E30 M3.
How many years have you had this?
About 15 years.
Okay,
So,
quite a long time.
Yeah.
This is before M3 prices went silly.
Yeah, they'd gone up a little bit. At the lowest, they were sort of 3 or 4 grand. So
3 or 4 grand.
yeah, I paid 6 for it.
Did you?
6 grand, yeah. I made an offer because he'd got that on eBay as well. So I messaged him and
God.
said, yeah, how much
This should
do
be
you want?
sponsored by eBay.
Yeah.
It's not, but it should be.
eBay Motors.
And what was it like compared to the Integrale? Because you use the Integrale daily.
Yeah, well, I had the two side by side for a while because this was cheaper than I'd planned to spend on an Integrale. I ran the two side by side for a little while. So yeah, they're similar power, similar weight, but delivered completely differently. One's turbocharged 4-wheel drive. This is front engine rear-wheel drive.
Have you got any pictures of them both together?
Yeah, probably.
That's a seriously cool
Yeah,
2-car
yeah.
setup, isn't it?
Yeah, well, sort of E30s aren't really my era. I'm more of an E36 person, but
Yeah.
it's the round headlights, wide arches, homologation special.
Yeah.
I quite like left-hand drive. You get a nice driving position, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, good clutch rest. So
Have you done a lot to this over the years, or have you got a plan in place for this?
not really. It's on eyebacks and Billstones, and a set of the wheels are off the Evo version. They're the 16-inch BBSs.
I bet you've got a few spares for this.
Yeah, you collect parts of. They run the dogleg gearbox, the get drag gearbox.
That's right.
So I had this one went wrong a couple of times, so I've had it rebuilt twice, and it's sort of, the gearbox seems a little bit fragile, so I picked up a spare gearbox. I've got one of them tucked away.
Have you?
Yeah,
What year is it actually?
it's an 89
Okay.
F-Reg, so yeah, it's just the standard model, standard 2.3. It was a German import, so all the computer's got the German text on it and stuff, so yeah, it's a proper original one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've put the Evo wheels on, the Sport Evo splitter.
Your other half was saying that you went with the family in this to Disney World Paris.
Yeah.
And drove it into the centre of Paris,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
sounds stressful.
I needed a tour of Paris, and they all wanted to go, so yeah. A left-hand drive in a bright, shiny, red British registered car. It was a little bit frightening.
I love it. I have to say, is it one of these cars that's going to be like a rolling restoration? You're going to do bits and bobs as you go? Or are you going to just do it all in one hit? Or
I'm hoping to sort of do it in one hit, but there's a few other bits and pieces to tidy up first and get on this.
Yeah.
So I have trouble letting other people do things on my cars, so I'll probably try and do as much of the welding and the prep work as I can, and then probably pay someone else to do the finishing off of the bodywork, because I think what they're worth now, you need to do it to a decent standard.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
bet you've lost count of how many people have tried to buy it off.
Yeah.
Because they think that you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Or you know what, the interior is really it's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not being restored, it's sort of aged. but
Yeah. It's got a bit of wear, but it looks
Yeah.
honest.
It's obviously a little bit scruffy at the moment where things are pulled to bits. But
Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Before we move on, we'll have a quick look at the engine. We've got to. Oh, there we go. The slant 4. So there's something different here.
Yeah, I've had trouble getting it running because it hadn't run for a couple of years. So over the summer I decided I'd make an effort to get it running. And, well, traced all the wiring everywhere, pulled the ECU to bits.
Yeah.
Still just couldn't get a spark or any fuel out of the injectors. So a chap I'd been speaking to sold me an experimental Alfa N setup, which basically runs a variable throttle pot,
Ah, yeah.
because the standard one's just an on-off switch,
Yeah. Yeah.
which plugs into the airflow meter connection, and then you can do away with the airflow meter. So
Yeah.
and you change a chip in the ECU so it all understands what's going on.
That's really good.
Yeah, started it up and it fired.
That's brilliant.
So obviously the problem was in the airflow meter. So
Yeah.
at the moment there's normally a big air box and a pipe to the airflow meter and the air filter down there. So at the moment it's open throttle, so it's pretty noisy. Doesn't run 100% yet, but it's getting
And you were
there.
saying you've taken the strut brace off while you were fiddling.
Yeah, because there's normally a cover over all this wiring, and the
Yeah.
crank sensors go down onto the bottom of the gearbox.
Yeah. But like you say, what's really good is most of the rust on yours is in places where they're not M3 specific, it's just a 3 Series.
Yeah,
So panels,
yeah.
like chassis leg panels and scuttle panels are just
Yeah,
3 Series.
all the front panels,
Yeah.
all standard 3 Series.
Cool car, Harry. But it's time to move on to another M3, I feel.
Yeah.
This is what I like about you, Harry. You're a multiple project man, which makes me feel better about myself. This E36 M3 4-door.
Yep, 4-door Evo saloon, 3.2 Evo.
Okay. Now, what I like about these is, for a long time, they were the sort of the ghetto M3. They were the cheapest, they were the most abused, I would say.
Yeah, well, they still are to some extent.
Are
They're sort of
they?
the forgotten M3, really. So the E30 and the E46 get all the glory, but
These were great.
yeah.
These were mega cars. So, I mean, again, is it a bargain? What's the story
Yeah,
here?
kind of. Again, bought when they were cheap, but my friend was selling, well, he was after something sensible to get his girlfriend to learn to drive in, and
Okay.
he happened to be selling an E36 M3 Evo saloon.
Did you do a deal?
We, had a little deal, had a little exchange and a bit of cash his way.
And how long ago was that?
About 10 years ago.
Okay, you've had it a long time then.
Yeah. Took it all around the country. I used it every day for about 8 or 9 years.
Oh, a long time?
Yeah, so it was on 150,000. It's now done 270 odd, just over 270,000.
Wow, okay.
Original gearbox, original engine. Engine's never been apart.
Wow.
It's original diff.
And you got some serious aero going on
Yeah,
of its era.
yeah. Well, strangely enough, it ties back into the Lancia Integrale in the 90s, in the British touring cars. Alfa came along with their 155.
Yeah.
That was run by what used to be the Lancia Rally Works team, so they knew all about homologation and stuff. So the 155 Silverstone had an extending front splitter, and they supplied little blocks in the boot to raise the spoiler up.
Nice.
So they dominated the first half of the season, and then all the other teams complained, and they said no, actually they just know the rules and they've taken advantage. So
Yeah.
everyone else rushed to bring in aero for their cars. So second half of '94, BMW brought out a 318 IS Class 2
That's right.
with a big splitter.
Was that available through?
Yeah, you could buy them from BMW as an accessory.
Wow.
It's on metal brackets which hang from the metal bumper bar underneath.
Really?
So,
Okay, so it's pretty good stuff.
you can see part of the bracket through there, and then one at each corner
Yeah,
behind the
yeah,
fog
yeah.
lights. So yeah, it is adjustable.
Oh my gosh.
So at the moment it's a little bit loose.
It's like
but-
an extendable
Yeah.
dining table.
Yeah, so they used to vary it depending on what track they're at. It's on.
That's cool. So this is a proper sort of 90s touring car homage.
Yeah.
And you've got the wing on the back, which
Yeah,
has got
that
those
was-
different...
That was the same homologation
Yeah.
special piece. So you got an extra block.
So what's the plan with this at the moment? I can see you're adding bits to it. The paint has
Yeah,
it's started reacting,
yeah,
hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's-
It needs, well, like everything else, needs work, needs tidying.
And I haven't even mentioned the wheels. Look at the wheels. Their choice.
Yeah, they're genuine centre-lock wheels.
For the full touring car effect.
Mid-90s touring car.
Yeah.
So,
I can see the theme. You buy them cheap
yeah,
at
yeah.
the bottom of their market,
Yeah,
and then you use them
Use them properly, yeah,
hard,
yeah.
but then you start building up a collection of bits to
yeah,
resurrect them.
yeah. Like this has been used. Everything that's done to it, the big wheels and the spoilers, I still drive it just as hard as the standard car. Everything has to be usable. I'll lower them, but
Yeah.
I won't. I'm not extreme. Well, I've
Yeah.
got quite a lot of camber, but I don't go not into the full stance thing there. Sort of upright bushes, coilovers, spacers.
So it's still motorsport
Yeah.
style.
I
Do you do track days, things like that?
I have done a few. I think the E30 was the last one. So it's a few airfield days. This one, I think, with the mileage, it might not be worth it.
You're a bit scared.
Yeah.
To nearly 300,000 miles on an M3. That's impressive. And it's reminded me when I was 17 and these were new. This style of mirror was a game changer. Everybody wanted.
Yeah, every
the double mount M3. Everyone wanted M3 mirrors on their cars. It was the thing. It's so of its time. But I still think it looks good. I actually still think it's a cool shape. It's got quite aero. The step here.
It's sort of one of my favourites. I like how narrow it is compared to modern cars. They're really slim. They were quick as well. They're proper 300 odd horsepower. Well, 320 they advertised at.
And did they have no traction control?
No traction control.
That's right. So it was the last M3 to have no traction control.
Still got a cable throttle and no traction control, which I think is probably why they're my favourite.
And I'm stood here now wanting to buy an E36 M3. Damn it. Another one for the list. Get the little Fiat out so we can have a closer look. There's an interesting story with this one, as is all the cars. Tell us what happened.
Apparently my granddad bought it for my mum and my uncle to learn to drive in as their first cars, and at some point my uncle decided to see what was stronger, a Fiat or a brick wall.
It went into a brick wall.
Yeah. Unfortunately the brick wall won, so it got towed back, parked in a barn at my granddad's sort of in the mid-70s and sat there abandoned until a couple of years ago.
This was my brother's first car, one of these, even though he bought it off our next door neighbour when I think it failed its MOT, and my neighbour was going to scrap it, and Greg got wind of that, and I think Greg was only 13, I would have been maybe 11, and he bought it for like 15 quid, and we pushed it from their drive round to our drive, and it sat on our drive for probably 2 years where we just took bits off it and put them back on again and sort of learned how cars work. I remember sitting in it pretending to drive, as you do, but you hardly ever see Fiat 850s. Certainly right-hand drive, British Fiats of this era. You've dragged it back here. Presumably you are going to finally,
hopefully at some
resurrect
point, again, add it to the list of other things.
Yeah, parts are quite hard to find, I would have thought, for these.
Yeah, you won't find anything in this country really, maybe mechanical parts, but most bits have been sourced from Italy. So, obviously a second-hand bonnet, a straight one, because the other was rather dented.
I bet it was. I love these, the back end of these. They're so narrow, they're so bijou with these sort of almost Ferrari kind of rear lights.
They did use them on quite a few different cars.
Yeah, they did. And I can't remember the list. I'm sure there's someone watching this who goes, oh yeah, they did use them on a certain Ferrari. I think they did. But tiny little engine lid. Does it run?
It doesn't at the moment, unfortunately. It wasn't stored very well, so it's seized up. It's a little bit tight. So.
Is it? Have you been soaking it in diesel?
Yeah, I have been dropping a little diesel in every now and then,
Wheels, Harry, I mean, clearly your uncle didn't drive it around on those.
When we found it, it only had one wheel on it. We found the hubcaps and the nuts, but no wheels.
Oh, you only found one wheel? They've gone? They've been scrapped over time?
They've probably put on something else or thrashed around the farm or something, but So they were just a quick eBay purchase, 25 quid, just so we could roll it and bring it home, because it was sat on blocks for 40 odd years.
Yeah. So are you like the second owner for this, or your family's the second?
He traded it. My granddad traded a Citroen DS in for it.
So he traded in a DS, and then your uncle just crashed this.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant. This is the car, the Metro, that was your first cars, or your first foray into the car world.
Yeah,
is that right?
It's my second car, but the first one I sort of really threw myself into and started playing with it. Taught me a lot. Taught me how to take engines apart and things. So yeah.
So this is. I can see there's some mods here, some particularly 90s looking mods. Is this a GTi?
Originally it was a 1.4 GTi with a multi-point engine.
Yeah.
So 103 horsepower. At the time, it felt quick.
I bet, and I know there's some neat exhaust and things. So is this going to be? Is this going to live on again, or is this?
No, this is getting pulled to bits. It's had a lot of rust and early practice welding. So
Yeah.
it had a 1.8 K series on Gen V throttle bodies, and was stripped out. So it was good fun, but it's too far gone. So
Yeah.
a few years ago, I bought a 1.1C donor car, immaculate, never been welded. So hopefully all the bits will live on in another project.
Right. So you're going to take all the GTI bits and put them on that.
Yeah.
I'm digging the compa motives. Is this what you used to drive it around on?
Yeah, 15-inch compa motives.
They're worth more than the car at the
Probably
time.
are. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking of wheels, in fact, those are not Golf GTI wheels,
No.
are they?
As you have seen, I like changing wheels and chopping and changing. I never
Yeah.
sell things, so it was a totally standard Mark II 8-valve GTI, early one with the quarter lights, small bumpers.
So this is not your car, though.
No,
is it?
it's the other half. It was her everyday car for a little while, several years. So.
Yeah. What's it off the road for?
It came off the road because it wasn't very good in the winter. The handbrake used to stick, the cables iced up, and the locks froze. And
So this is coming back on the road.
yeah.
And those wheels are they off your?
They're off my
your dead
Integrale.
Integrale.
Yeah, they're Integrale 16-valve, 15-inch wheels.
They're a good
bolt.
wheel.
Yeah.
We're going to have a look at your daily drivers, because you and your other have got 3, I think, daily drivers.
Yeah.
First one being this one, the MiTo. I went on the launch of this car. I do quite like MiTos. I think that they're probably good value.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah. They're quite good fun. They share a platform with the Punto and the Corsa, so they're pretty basic underneath, but they sort of made a few little touches to sort of make them a bit more individual and feel a little bit more special. So,
Yeah. So what spec have you gone for with this?
it's a Multiair 135, so it's got a turbo, 1.4 turbo,
Yeah.
but only 135 horsepower. It was, actually bought off my mum when she was upgrading to a bigger car, and I decided I'd try and be sensible and buy something modern with a few.
Is this the
features.
most modern car you've ever bought?
Yeah, most modern car I've ever owned, which is
it?
now 10 years old.
Okay.
It's a 12 reg, so.
I like the sort of off-white and the sort of oxblood.
Heated leather. It's got a few tweaks. It's on ST coilovers, which are sort of KWs, but with a standard galvanised body, so it handles well.
Okay, so your daily, am I right in thinking your daily driver's the MiTo?
Yeah,
at the
MiTo
moment,
and the other Compact.
and the Compact, which we're going to look at in a sec.
Yeah.
And this is your other half's daily,
Yeah,
which has been in the family since it was.
yeah, since a couple of years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my granddad bought it at, as I say, a couple of years old. He was the second owner. Had only done 20,000 miles, I think, and then that was sort of his favourite car he owned. It was his last car he was going to buy, he always said.
Wow.
And he, I think, did about 1,500 miles a year for 10 years or so.
Is that all?
Yeah, so
Wow.
just to run to the shop, so no stone chips or...
It looks mint. I have to say, it looks really mint. Engine?
3.5 litre V6, so it's a CLK 350.
Petrol?
Yeah, petrol.
Okay.
With a 7-speed gearbox, 7-speed auto.
Pillarless coupe as well.
Yeah.
Your granddad had style.
Yeah.
It's funny, when these were new, I really didn't like the back end at all. They look a bit bobtailed. But when I pulled up on your drive to film here this morning, I looked at the side profile of it and went, do you know what? A, it's been a while since I've seen one. And B, that looks good. It sits it sits well.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about this, Harry.
Had a few tweaks.
Has it been hit with a lowering stick?
It has, but I didn't do it for a change. It came on a set of AC Schnitzer springs, so it was already, I think they're 50mm springs, so it's fairly low. It's just about acceptable.
Yeah. So is this a sport?
Yeah, this is a proper factory sport. So it's got the M3 look bumpers and the side stripes and the rear bumper. So yeah, you get the sports seats.
The interior's peak 90s. Peak 90s interior.
Yeah,
it's great.
Superb. Sort of hints of public transport, people have said.
It does. These were a bargain for a long
Yeah,
time. Are they
yeah.
still pretty cheap?
They're going up. They're getting harder to find in decent condition because they did the Compact Cup, so they raced a load of them, and then a lot of people drift them, weld the diffs, send them sideways and crash them into things. So
Yes.
decent ones are getting harder to find. This has only done just under 50,000 miles.
Is that all?
It'll probably tick over 50 this week when I go to work at some point.
So still pretty tight.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But yeah, I think they drive really well. They're good fun. They're a mix. They sort of
They feel like a big car, but they're a small car.
Yeah, because from the windscreen forward, they're identical to the four-door saloon and the touring, but they've got the back suspension off an E30, so they really feel like a mix of E30 and E36 to drive.
So how much money buys you a half decent one of these? Because I can't remember its E number.
E36.
Could you get a clean one for under 2? Probably not now.
Probably non-sports, yeah, £2,000 will get you a decent one, a decent condition, low mileage one. Sports are 2.5 to 3 these days for a nice, clean, tidy one.
Okay. Thanks for showing us around all your cars today, Harry. It's just I find it fascinating where you've got a combination. You know, it's got real halo cars like that, but obviously you bought them when they weren't.
No,
massive
everything has
money.
been bought to be used or hopefully used.
Yeah, and I can see you've got such a good stash of bits, keeping on top of the cars and doing all the work yourself, which is really, really admirable, I think. But not only that, just a mad mix of cars. Just seeing that E30 next to the Alfa Sud.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Late Break Show. If you haven't already subscribed, why not subscribe? Maybe you've got a selection of cars that are a little bit out there and eclectic, whether they're under a garage or whether they're not. Let us know in the comments below. Thanks very much.